What is up, everyone? Hope you're all doing amazing. Last week's broadcast was brought to you by pineapples. Today's is brought to you by flowers. So I hope you all are doing amazing. I wanted to come live today, like I do every week, with a plan to interrupt my audio, with a plan to essentially let's take over the world in a meaningful and positive way. And really my plan is to educate and inform and to teach people how to think, like I talk about how to think in this market, how to understand how to think, how to think means, and how to put yourself in a position to where you can play the game. Something that I've been thinking about a lot is a lot of people don't understand how to play the game until they get absolutely wrecked. And what that means is I'm sharing the link to my group. If you want to be in the group, just comment group down below. But what that really means is you're kind of in a position to where you get into the market, you want to buy these altcoins, you want to get these huge results. And the first time we try, we usually get wrecked. We buy alts, they go to zero, or we don't take profits and we get crushed. And so my goal is to teach people how to navigate the market, how to understand when to buy, when to sell, not telling you what to do thing. It's not financial advice, but providing a guiding light on what to do, how to do it, when to do it, why it's possible, what makes sense. We're looking at points of confluence and ultimately being able to make decisions that allow everyone to win. Because I really want everyone in this market to win. I mean, believe it or not, my goal here is to allow the most amount of people to win possible while playing this game. Because we're in a place and a position in time to where we have every opportunity to make life-changing wealth, but we also have every opportunity, well, to lose it. And I don't know if you're not anything like me, you probably don't want to lose money. None of us want to lose money. So my goal here is to teach you, not tell you what to do, but provide educational material and insight as to how we can win when navigating this crypto market. So without further ado, I'm sharing this link, and then we will take over the world. So let's get into coin market cap and kind of see what's going on in the market itself. So when I look at the coin market cap itself, we've got trending coins, Terra Luna Classic. Luna Classic it's officially a meme. I would imagine next bull run, Terra Luna Classic goes nuts. It's going to be like Dogecoin next time, just because it's now a meme. It's going to live forever. Optimism just launched their token, which I think is interesting. I might do a DeFi segment on Optimism, but Optimism is optimistic Ethereum. It's a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. And so when you go on Optimism, the Ethereum transaction fees are like pennies. They're a couple dollars. So it's way easier to use than essentially Ethereum. It's not necessarily that it's easier, it's just cheaper to use in terms of gas fees. You're not going to pay $80 for a gas fee. You're going to pay a couple bucks at the most. And the interesting thing about Optimism is it's kind of been a ghost town. There hasn't been really a lot going on. And when we look at Optimism over here, it's right here. So Optimism has about 375 million kind of loaded up inside their chain in terms of their total locked value. But the interesting thing now is we've got 43 protocols. It's grown 30%. And I've seen Balancer in conjunction with Beats pop on Optimism. There's a new platform called Velodrome. I think that's how you say it, but it's supposed to be the main DEX on Optimism and sort of a play on like Curve or Solidly that was on Phantom. I've seen Taro, which is a lending solution and leverage trading platform, go on to Optimism. So there's a lot of really cool protocols that I follow and that I personally use moving to Optimism. And so what that's telling me is we might see an Optimism summer. And so we might see a lot of cool stuff go on Optimism. We might see a massive influx of builders go out on there and build. And we might see the Optimism coin pump. But more importantly, we might see a really good DeFi culture built on Optimism. We're probably going to see that go up quite a bit. I think last week this was somewhere around like 250 million, maybe less. And now we're pumped up to about 375. So it is growing and building. They just launched their coin. So this is interesting. I might do a full segment on it, but Optimism is definitely something to look out for. I see it pushing itself up somewhere near probably Arbitrum, another ETH layer 2 scaling solution. The other interesting thing that I'm kind of seeing in terms, since we're already over here, is Tron is getting dangerously close to passing Binance coin. Their USDB, their stable coin is essentially decentralized algo stablecoin. So be careful with their coin if you've been part of the whole Luna thing. But they backed it up with the decentralized reserve that allows it to sort of be an over collateralized stablecoin. So could it be better? Probably, maybe, who knows? But at the same time, people are using it. People are liking it. With only 9 protocols, Tron is now number 3. It's surpassed AVAX, which literally got crushed. It has been getting crushed. Solana is barely active. It's barely alive. So it's getting crushed. Polygon, nothing's really doing well other than, I mean, I tried to look this one up. I'll get into that another time, but other than that, other than Tron in this sort of like bear market zone, we haven't really seen a ton of growth amongst protocols other than Bitcoin DeFi. It's kind of building and growing because right now is Bitcoin maxi season. So we're seeing a lot more Bitcoin protocols and Bitcoin itself, obviously the dominance going straight up. So something interesting to look out for, but optimism's kind of neat. It's I think we're going to have an optimism summer similar to when we had DeFi summer in 2020. So something to look out for. But in the last 7 days, we've had another little breakout like we do every Sunday, basically. And like I talk about every broadcast, which has brought Bitcoin up a little bit. It's kind of been stuck right here for a while between like 31.30 and like 31.5. Nothing else is really moving anything crazy. I mean, Cardano is doing its thing. Everything, like I always say, pretty much looks like Bitcoin. Interesting thing that I've kind of been noticed though is BNB. So I usually hedge in a down market with like Bitcoin and Ethereum and then stables and DeFi. But I'm starting to notice that BNB is becoming quite the hedge. It's actually coming in to match these two in terms of not getting as much downside. So I'm considering adding BNB to my hedge portfolio. So maybe it goes from 50% Bitcoin and 40% Ethereum and 10% stables to maybe 40, 30, and then allocate a little bit to BNB, but kind of something I'm considering because I've noticed the downside is a lot less in comparison to other stables for BNB. Obviously, it's down 8% today. It's actually, maybe now it'll get crushed now that I'm talking about it, but lately it's held up quite strongly. I do think most alts are going to continue to get crushed. I don't think there's a lot of good movement for alts right now. So let's go kind of trading view. I think as Bitcoin trades sideways, Alter is going to get wrecked for a while. And I don't, in my opinion, it's not the time to be an altcoin person. It's the time right now to be a Bitcoin person. Even if you're not a Bitcoin maxi, right now is the time. If you don't want to get completely wrecked as we go sideways for a while, it's probably the time to be a Bitcoin person. Interesting thing that I've noticed, and I've talked about this in my Signals chat group. If you're interested in joining that group, just comment group down below and I will send over the link. I'll actually just pin the link in the comments when I'm done with this. But interesting thing I've noticed here on this bottom log zone here is we've touched this a lot. It's actually held up to be a really strong level of support. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish, 7, 8, basically 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We had 14, fell through at 15. I mean, look how many times we've touched this thing. We came up last week. We came back down. I think we came back down right on Tuesday, right after the holiday, or maybe Wednesday. But then we came back down. We touched again, came back up, touched again. We touched it like 57 times here. And now we're coming back up. And now I guarantee we'll come back and touch it again. So I think right now we're just going to have this sort of this boring market where we come back and we kind of just have to kind of decide when we fall through that, or do we just sit here in range for the next 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, whatever. But when we look at big significant zones to get past on like the monthly, we've got somewhere like 35, 34-ish is a pretty big zone to get past, and then like 32. So between 32 and like 34, 35 are the choppy zones that we're probably going to get rejected off of a bunch of times. And it's probably going to be what happened up here. It's going to be touch, fail, touch, fail, touch, fail, touch, fail, dump, and probably happen here. So it's going to come up, touch, fail, touch, fail, touch, fail, dump. And as soon as we see that big dump, that's when I think we come down to, I marked this 14,000 zone because I think that could be the wick that we see. But I think ultimately, once we punch through, if we punch through, we come down. This is probably the zone that it'll stick at, but we'll probably see maybe a touch and a wick up to about this zone. And then that's when I would say, okay, bottom's in. And then what'll happen is we'll just move sideways like this for like a couple of months, or 5-6 months, who knows. But that's kind of the trajectory I would say we're on. I don't think we're on a position or a pathway to where we're like on an uptrend. I think we're on maybe a June rally where we get a couple of good weeks in a row, get rejected a million times, and then we actually see the final capitulation down the road. So that's kind of where I would say we're at with Bitcoin. And as we do this, and as we move, like last week, up, down, up, down, up, down, we're not really getting anywhere. It just destroys the alts the whole way through. The alts are just going to get crushed. They're going to get wrecked. They're going to lose money in with respect to Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance is going to go up until Bitcoin's like peak dominance. When we actually hit that bottom and Bitcoin starts driving up, then we can transition and shift to beginning to buy the alts. Even when we look at like ETH right now, it's sort of in a similar position. Let's look at ETH up here. ETH is like there's a bug here. When we look at ETH, I've kind of mapped out a few different little zones, but I think the ultimate bottom for ETH is like 1100. If Bitcoin goes down and touches, ETH will too. So we can probably expect ETH to maybe go as low as like, maybe not 600, but somewhere like 1100, maybe wick down to 8 or 9, come back up and then move itself. So there's going to be some pretty life-changing opportunities for ETH as well. Should that be what I just talked about play out, I think ETH's in the zone here too. So between like 18 and 21. So ETH's going to do the same thing as Bitcoin does it. Just boom, 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 dead. As if that plays out. Now, if we break through and we break out, obviously it'd be great. It would be hunky dory. We come back and test this, but I don't think that's the scenario we're going to see. And when we kind of come and look at the Bitcoin dominance, it's been moving up quite tremendously. So when we look at Bitcoin dominance on the weekly, for a while there, it ultimately like bottomed out May 10th, 2021, when alts kind of had their little peak. Then it's been sort of just fighting to get past its little support zone. And now it's in a place to where it finally actually wicked past, and it's been steadily raising up. We're at 47.52%. Last week, I think we were at 46.68. So it's steadily going up, and I would expect it to continue going up. I would expect this dominance to be like 50. I mean, I would expect it to come up and challenge this. So probably come back up and test around this like 50, I don't know, at least 50, 60%, probably somewhere up in the 70% again to challenge that. I think we can expect. So something to kind of pay attention to. Bitcoin dominance is going to continue going up. We're going to challenge Bitcoin dominance's 200-day moving average, and then we will probably get past it and move up. And that will be when we've kind of bottomed out and Bitcoin's finally in a place to where the alts are bleeding out like crazy. People are saying crypto is dead. The market's done. And that's the prime opportunity to start jumping back into alts. When we look at ETH Bitcoin, kind of the same story. I need to turn off this rainbow. It screws up the whole chart. So when we look at the ETH Bitcoin dominance, we have fallen to the downside of this triangle. And I remember telling everybody, if we break to the upside, we're going to see some significant upside and a really good alt season. But unfortunately, we fall into the downside of this channel that we've been in since like May of last year. So we went sideways for an entire year. Now we fall into the downside, which tells me that alts will probably continue to bleed. I would imagine the alts get to maybe this zone, like this horizontal line here, because that's kind of like the previous highs. Obviously, we went a lot stronger back here in 2017. So this year, we'll probably expect more downside because now we've broken out of this year-long kind of sideways pattern. We tried to break out once, failed, another time failed, and now we broke into the downside, which ultimately will lead to a bigger capitulation. So another kind of point of confluence to see that we're probably not done with sort of the bear market sideways channel. We're probably going to see maybe a little bit of a June rally, but that doesn't mean we're back on track. That doesn't mean that I'm ready to YOLO my life savings into it. That just means I'm going to right now, I'm going to slowly collect Bitcoin and ETH, and that's it. And then down the road, I'll start collecting some of the other alts. I might get brave and pick up some BNB later on, but right now it's mostly Bitcoin, a little bit of ETH, and then sitting in stables and DeFi until we get to a place to where Bitcoin dominance finally peaks out and we start seeing alts start rise back up, or at least stop bleeding, because right now they're going to basically bleed into eternity. So something to think about in that regard. When we look at the overall market, I think we're getting a bit of a relief rally here. Seems like we got a relief rally, and now we're kind of starting to trend sideways, which tells me we're going to come back through and sort of test the support. And if we drive up, we come back and test this support band. If not, we push back through and come back to test the bottom of this channel. So I think that's what we can expect in the overall market in the next couple of days or in the next couple of weeks, depending on what some of the Fed, do they look hawkish? Do they not? Does inflation look better? Does it not? Are we still raising at 50 basis points? Are they moving into quantitative easing or quantitative kind of restricting? And so I think as they reduce and restrict and reduce their balance sheet, we'll probably see the market come back down until they start easing off. Then it'll come back up. So some stuff we can expect there. Kind of the same thing on the NASDAQ. Nothing really looks that different. We're kind of stuck here. We actually, on this one, got rejected. So we can expect downside if that doesn't push back through. So that'll come back, test here, and then probably pump back down. So something to expect there. I don't know if, like I said in the past, I think we're probably headed somewhere near this 200-week moving average. I don't think the pain is all done. So got a lot more to expect. Looking at the US dollar, I've talked about this a lot and how that kind of plays in with respect to Bitcoin, but we've been in this multi-year channel for a while. And well, that's that's what I'm looking for. I was like, that's not right. But we basically broke out. We went on this like massive rally, broke out, hit this little peak, and then fell back through. And now we've pushed up just above it. So now we're kind of retesting the zone. If the dollar comes up and continues moving, that's not good for Bitcoin. If the dollar comes up, gets rejected, falls through, and comes back down, that's a good scenario for where we're at. So something to look out on that end. Oil just doesn't have an end in sight. Oil seems to just be trucking along. Has been pushing up steadily. We're at 120. We peaked up at 137 at one point. So oil, I would expect to go up along with oil prices. So something to look forward to there. Outside of that, that's kind of where we're at. When we look at DeFi, nothing really crazy in DeFi. I know I talked about optimism a little bit. MakerDAO still past Curve. Curve's kind of a stablecoin platform. So Curve took a huge hit. DeFi has been down since the Luna disaster, May 7th, just before Luna. And then DeFi took a huge hit from like 200 billion down to 100 billion. So not a lot there. That's basically kind of where we're at in the market. I think we have a lot more time of sideways action, probably a further downside capitulation to come. For me right now, I really want to collect Bitcoin and ETH. I don't really want to play in anything else. I want to play with all my stables in DeFi, and ultimately just be patient and not get too excited on these rallies, because these are just relief rallies. They're not really rallies that are going to really lead us anywhere, in my opinion. So if you like this broadcast, make sure you like the broadcast itself and subscribe to the channel and share this with someone who could benefit from. And if you have any questions, just drop those down below. If you found this helpful, just drop a helpful in the comments so that I know you liked what I'm talking about. And that's it. I will talk to you all later.